Hey there, grammar students. This is Chelsea with Let's Talk. Today, let's break down reduced relative clauses. This is when we take a relative clause and we shorten it. So now it's a phrase instead of a clause. So first thing you need to know about reduced relative clauses is that they only work with subject relative clauses, not with object relative clauses. So my first sentence here, the error message that I received was a mistake. This orange relative clause here is an object clause, not a subject clause. How can you find that out? Look for the verb. So in our relative clause, the verb is received. And then look at the word before the verb. If the word before the verb is a noun, that means that our relative pronoun here has to be an object because this noun is the subject. I received the message. So the message is an object. This is an object relative clause. We can't reduce it. So forget about that one. So let's look at some sentences here that have relative clauses we can reduce. The guy who is talking to the manager is getting fired. We can reduce this relative clause. So I'm going to get rid of this word. I'm going to get rid of this word. And I'm good to go. So it becomes the guy talking to the manager. Is getting fired. So we have reduced our relative clause down to this phrase. A little shorter, a little easier to say. Very common in English. So how did I just do that? How do we reduce these relative clauses? Well, first thing you want to do is get rid of the relative pronoun. And next step is get rid of that first be verb. So there we go. We had was as our to be verb here. So the copy attached to your folder needs editing. We're good to go. Next one, the people who are most excited about the new uniform will get to try it first. Ooh. So first thing we do, get rid of that relative pronoun who. Here we have our to be verb are. The people most excited about the new uniform will get to try it first. And last one, I can't use the tape dispenser that is on her desk. Get rid of that. Get rid of our to be verb is. I can't use the tape dispenser on her desk. We're good to go. Now, we can also reduce some relative clauses that don't have a to be verb. When we are in the past or present simple. All right, so we've got a sentence in past simple and a sentence in present simple. How are we going to reduce these? We don't have to be. Well, we're still going to get rid of the relative pronoun, who, and we're going to take our verb and we're going to change it to an ing verb. So the people working in the IT department deserved a raise. Took our verb, changed it to an ing, the people working. Same with present simple. The candidate who receives the job offer has to be incredible. Get rid of that relative pronoun. Change to an ing. The candidate receiving the job offer has to be incredible. All right, another situation that has slightly different rules. When we have a passive continuous clause in the past or present. So let me show you what I mean. All right, the printer which is being used is too loud. So, like we talked about before, we're gonna get rid of the relative pronoun, and we have is being used. We'll get rid of that to be. So we end up with the printer being used is too loud. Same for past continuous. The woman who was being trained decided to quit. So get rid of the relative pronoun who, and here we have the past form of to be was. We'll get rid of that. The woman being trained decided to quit. And we're good to go. All right, last idea. Sometimes we have a relative clause that's pretty short. So, for example, the teacher who is dependable is admired by her students. So if we were to follow our rules we just talked about, we would get rid of who and we would get rid of is, and we'd be left with the teacher dependable, which is not great. So if this is the case, when we reduce this relative clause, we're just going to get rid of it altogether. We're going to take this word here and put it in our regular adjective position before the noun. So it would be the dependable teacher is admired by her students. But we wouldn't reduce that. It just makes it too short. Doesn't make any sense. All right, that is all I've got for you. In the comments, why don't you try reducing some of these relative clauses? This is Chelsea telling you it's not nerdy being wordy. Let's talk again soon.